While President Donald Trump fights to build a border fence, Valley residents have different opinions about the wall.
CBS 4's Tiffany Huertas investigates how it's already impacted residents who've been living on the border for several years. In a special report, a look into the border wall.
Tonight we hear from residents who are very vocal about the border fence and border security. Plus, we find out how it affects local law enforcement and the environment. Alfonso de los Santos' family owns property right behind the border wall.
We used to come hunting and everything out here. There was always, and go fishing.
But those days are long gone. A large steel fence now divides his property. Traveling can become an inconvenience.
If they cover up the wall right there, it's going to look kind of awkward, like I'm in prison or something.
While he still enjoys coming back here, he says this area has become a hot spot for smugglers. He says his land may scare some people, but not him.
They're afraid of somebody might jump them, or the river being right there, since they've been hearing a lot of shootings over there, right now, some Rio Bravo and all those places, that they might get shot right here. And then they're afraid of the border patrol.
But he is not alone. Many of his neighbors living along Military Highway in the small community of El Calabos in Cameron County, just yards from the border, have similar feelings. Eloisa Tamez's family has owned this land since the 1700s. She's partly Panapachi and Mexican American and says her rights were violated.
I feel incarcerated. I feel my freedom has been taken from me.
The same large steel fence runs through the middle of her property. Her acre-and-a-half sits on the south side of the border wall.
These people who have money and wealth did not get the wall in the first place. Only the low-income people, happened to be Mexican-American, got the wall.
Tamez, an assistant director for graduate nursing programs and research at UTRGV, remembers receiving calls from U.S. Border Patrol agents asking questions about her land back in 2007. In 2006, Congress passed the Secure Fence Act. The legislation mandated that 700 miles of fencing be built along the southern border from California to Texas to help secure America's borders to decrease illegal entry, drug trafficking, and security threats. Tamez's property fit what the government was looking for. She says an official with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and a U.S. Border Patrol agent came to her office asking her to give them authorization to do a survey of her property, but she didn't sign any paperwork.
By December 7th, I received a letter from the Corps of Engineers saying that I was sued. I was being sued. But they gave me another 30 days in which to reconsider. And I did not sign. So by February of 2008, I did have to show up in court.
She claimed in court that they violated the law by failing to offer her an opportunity for consultation.
On February of 2008, the judge said that they had to, the judge granted us the time to have that consultation. So it worked out for us that we got that opportunity. Some of the other landowners in some of the other places had not gotten that opportunity.
After 2 years of court battles, the government ultimately took a quarter of an acre of land. Tamez was given $56,000, using some of the money to renovate her property and creating a scholarship fund for students at the university.
I do believe in what Donald Trump says as far as promoting safety, but I think that we need to think about alternatives as to what else we can do besides the wall.
As the night sets, local law enforcement patrolling the border know firsthand what happens. Jose de la Rosa is 27 years old and the chief of the small police department in Los Indios, located about half a mile from the Rio Grande.
We have to be prepared to anything that can happen here in this area. We're working in an area that the river is so close.
De la Rosa's department has 10 reserve officers. He is the only full-time member.
We had a lot of problems in this area where vehicles were picking up loads here. So what Border Patrol did was that they put this gate and basically it works as a deterrent for any vehicles to come in this area.
The valley is one of the country's busiest drug smuggling and crossing points for undocumented immigrants. Chief De La Rosa says that they work almost every day with Border Patrol watching the border.
Mexico is just a few feet away. The Rio Grande is right there. Now there's no border wall. Do you believe with a wall there will be more security and more protection for the community here?
I do believe that with the wall there will be more security and, as you say, more protection, just because right now we do have a wall. There's a lot of gaps open in this wall that we have right now.
There are several mile-long gaps without fence along the U.S.-Mexico border.
Los Indios Police Chief Jose De La Rosa says this is a perfect example of an incomplete border wall. If you take a look, the wall wraps around the corner, but right when you get to this part, it opens. Half a mile down that way is Mexico, and if you take a walk with me a few steps in, there's another incomplete section right here.
According to Congressman Henry Cuellar, 67% of land on the U.S. side of the border is privately owned. Also, due to treaties with Mexico which limit where and how structures can be built. Cuellar also says funding is a factor. 1 mile of technology can cost about $1 million, and 1 mile of fencing can cost $6.5 million. Meanwhile, some say the border wall also jeopardizes the health of not only those seeking illegal entry, but the environment.
Like right here, there's fingers. You just grab the wall and shimmy your way up and drop down the other side.
Scott Nickel, the co-chair of the Sierra Club's Borderlands team, an environmental organization, studies the border and captures images constantly of people crossing over in different ways. He says a wall will not stop people from coming over, and it will cause destruction of the environment.
The walls trap debris and water when there's a flood, and so if you start building walls in the Rio Grande floodplain, you're going to get bad flooding impacts.
Nichols says Sauble Palm's Audubon Sanctuary is a perfect example of a type of habitat that needs to be preserved.
The Sauble Palm forests used to be basically this whole stretch of river, and they used to call the Rio Grande the Rio de las Palmas. Now there's only a few very small forests left. It's also critical for endangered species. Under Bush, the Secretary of Homeland Security waived 37 laws to build this wall. So the Endangered Species Act no longer applies. Farmland Policy Protection Act no longer applies. The Native American Graves Protection Repatriation Act that keeps people from digging up ancestral bones no longer applies. You don't waive those laws if you don't plan to violate them.
Still, some are realistic about the wall's effect.
The smugglers, they're an attempt to cross that wall, no matter what.
Some, like De Los Santos, hopes their families, including his mother, who still lives on the border, is safe.
To be protecting her 24 hours a day, I'd rather have law enforcement actually handling this. There we go. Secured again.
While details of the border wall along the valley are still not clear, valley residents are bracing for the next chapter in the construction of the wall. Tiffany Huertas, CBS 4 News and ValleyCentral.com.
In 2016, more than 186,000 migrants were captured by Border Patrol agents. More than 46,000 of those were from Mexico and more than 140,000 from other countries. They also seized more than 326,000 pounds of marijuana.